This is Gamer 1745 here, and that went a bit wonky. We are getting started. I'm looking at the status. It all seems to look good. Very, very nice. Let's play some Hearts of Iron. Hello, Arno. Yes, finally. Hello, Butter. How you doing? Good morning from California. All right. Well, we're going to do a little bit of getting ready before we start making the episode. Okay. Well. Yes, soup. I know I haven't had any soup today. I don't particularly like soup. I'm not saying I don't like any soup. I'm just not a... Nope. We just had a crash. Okay, well, I'm going to be rebooting this black screen for the moment. Don't know... Well, I know what I was doing, and we'll see if that's repeatable. Do I have to go over to my other game? Oh, man. We're loading back up. Hopefully soon things will be back to normal with me. The big thing is sort of done for the moment. But it's still going to take me a while to catch my breath, if you know what I mean. Okay, load. That was alt-tabbing in and out a bunch before. Just scrolling to see what was in the... Okay, well, let's try this again. Nope, that worked. Okay. See, that worked. Okay, I don't know why. It was load that in and I started to scroll and it crashed. Now, since we're worried about it, okay. Let's put it here. We have supply. We'll sort by. Yeah, we can give it to this general. We also have some submarines. Now, let's take a quick look at our sub-operational areas. Operating out there and there. Out there and there. Pretty effectively, it looks like. Ooh, somebody's been... Is it by any chance us? No. Okay, we're not doing... Probably, I don't know, Italy? Japan? Rating, moving something through there? Okay, that's Iran. Okay, no order for these guys. Yeah, these guys here are not getting any... Didn't know if they were moving any supplies or anything through there. Well, let's go back over to here. Okay, they've got to be moving in supplies here to deal with the Italians. So, what does mixed support mean? Okay. I can answer that. Basically, I have a sort of tutorial video that'll go more in depth on it. And it goes back to various things. They've gone to the idea of a big main brigade and then a lot of individual supporting type units, which could be like artillery, artillery reconnaissance, anti-tank guns, anti-aircraft guns. You get those supporting elements to the main infantry and panzer brigades of a division. Well, what they also have here is airborne MiG support, armored MiG support, just general MiG support, and motorized MiG support, basically here, these units. And these are a combination of those others that are sort of supplemental. Hello, Marcel, Fritz, how you doing? And so it's either set up as a an augmentation or replacement for other mix or for other not unmixed support, because there's a limitation to how many support elements you can have in a division. So if you want to do that, so just, and like I say, there's a tutorial video that I go in a lot more depth. I know that's sort of short, but it's sort of more of a game idea of things. Okay, we got these guys, long range subs. Well, these are long range subs, so let's go back to, let's come off of here. Okay, that's too far, it looks like. Get off here, yeah, there we go. Convoy rating, we're gonna go. They're gonna go off there. These guys here, we're going to send them off of Tanganyika here. We're going to convoy rating and passive there. Because there's got to be a lot of supplies coming into this part of the world to fight the Italians down in Ethiopia. So hopefully we'll sink some of their convoys. Now, to here, we're going to grab a couple of U-boats here. Donuts, no, we're not putting him in charge of an actual group of U-boats. I don't want to lose the character. Let's on Trescow. Okay. Then we'll attach them to U-boat command, which I'm going to guess is, it's way over in France. It's Paris, so it's a little further than Paris away from us. Cherbourg, there we are. Okay, so this is near the bottom. Maybe not quite as far off from Cherbourg. Ah, I know why, because it's the higher area command, I'm guessing. There we go, Fury to U-boat. Yes, I did pass it, there we go. And we're going to create another little group. And not donuts. Oh, we'll do Ren here. And so that was, there we are. Okay, we'll let them get organized up before we start sending them out into the ocean. We're still battling some of the Soviet U-boats down here, so let's put these two torpedo boats. Oh, let's join the two torpedo boats together. Yeah, that's all right for Commander. Okay, they'll head out to there. Now, you have high revolt risk in Russia. Well, we'll let the clock go. When you first load it in, you're going to get an unmodified revolt risk? I think the answer is going to be no. Once we get it modified by units on the map. So I think it's no. Now we are building lots of infrastructure, railroads functionally, to try to supply our forces here in the east. You stop flying briefly. Let's see if we can get you reorganized. I don't know where I want to try to. Yeah, we can supply these guys here. Oh, these guys are. Well. Let's move these guys up. Very good shape either, but at least they're in some sort of shape. Well, they're not going to last long. Basically, it's backwards, backwards, backwards. Yeah, Arno, you got a bunch there today. What if all my viewers were bots? Oh, well. I don't know. They all want to view my stream as it is. Okay. They're rebasing up to there. Okay, that's... set this region. Deal with some of those fighter and bomber intrusions that we're seeing. Hello, Beam Slam. And how is your part of the world today? Oh, you're in good supply at the moment. Good. Oh, base intercept. Yeah. There's too many units. So let's move you back to there so that you get bravely go up and fight off the Soviet hordes. Right, well, you can attack there, I guess. Particularly Black Ice, but Hoi 3 in general as well, it is meant to be played meticulously. I like it that way. But because, you know, I haven't done any aggressive action here since starting playing. One thing I do want to keep doing is saving, so if there's another crash, or how will I say this, when there's another crash, we won't lose much of what we've done. Just disabled by Russian. Serving as a Panzer III. Okay, cool. Cool. Well, they're bombing us here. Finland is not doing well. We got a bunch of motor torpedo boats. Let's send them up to here. Well, let's look at fighter command, generally speaking. Okay, no order, good, good. They're in good shape. Those guys are bad shape, but no order. No orders. Get better. Be basic, good. Maybe they need to be further east. Let's put you on as night. Receptors. No, I think we're going to put you up anyways, even though you have one unit that's not doing so well. We're losing this war. Right, and I'm not used to losing these wars. I don't know how to reload with HE, so just fired AP and NG. I haven't played that game yet. It does sound sort of good, but I haven't got there yet. Alright. One save here, and then we'll... At the clock, let's start an episode. Well, no, start that again. Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of the Drang nach Osten campaign, which seems like Drang nach Westen. They're moving to the west. We're barely holding out. We are trying to destroy these beachheads here in the Netherlands. And boy, I'm having trouble thinking even. Hey, that's great. So we are in dire straits. Even it's great, even the ground version, right? Okay. We're in dire straits here. hope you'll come along for the ride and see how we can do, or we'll see how long it takes us to lose the war. Let's take a look here. Okay, those guys are heading that way to try to this. Okay, well here and here and here we're hiding behind rivers, so that's fair-ish. We got some decently in shape units. Okay, that is not. That's just an extraneous HQs or somebody I can just attach up to do that. Yeah, well, we just deployed an infantry brigade, or an infantry division, I should say, not brigade, in there. We're getting what we can, Arno. We're getting what we can. Let's see how this is going to go. Pushed us out of this. I mean, we should have been able to hold a city behind a river. But no. Okay, well. Well, let's counterattack here. We have a teeny bit of organization in some of these units. Major defeat. Okay. We're under attack here. We've lost here. This was the major defeat. Here we won up in fact again. Now. No, we're pushing on them hard. Okay, Army Group HQ has advanced. Be down here. That's pushed to 45, and that's too far in advance. Hell, they'll be in Berlin by 44, so what are we worrying about 45 technologies? Yes, this is Gamer being pessimistic. Gamer being a defeatist. Okay, we'll do some classes there. And cruiser damage. Let's see what we get damage. Papa. No, well, but the Italians are going to save us. That's it. The Italians are going to save us. Okay, who's not doing something here? You're being bombed. Why do I keep... Pavlov was right, because whenever I see things, I'm used to clicking them, so I keep clicking them, and it's the one I don't want. There, see, I remembered not to click that. Okay. Bounces. Scattered. Come back to here. We move to there. These guys back. They didn't fight very well, but they fought. Hey, Harry. Yes, Mussolini carrying the war. Ha ha ha. Like that is going to be something we rely upon. All these early units that I rushed to the invasion front. Oh, you were in the east. Okay, well, now that we've had the clock roll a little bit, we can see here where we do have some bad. And we'll send you there. Some bolt risk. And to get some more of the Eastern Front guys. Too much some of our supplies flow through. Yeah. We'll see what happens. See how well Mussolini can save us. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Torch has just happened, everyone. Torch has just happened. Operation Torch, we all know what that is. I don't need to read that. Here, case Anton. Okay, okay, I've got to look into some of this here. Well, maybe we, okay, what are they are, BICE France is now an Axis member, okay. Well, then that's what I think should happen, right, okay. Well, go. Okay, they're having to fall back out of some of these. Oh, I guess. Oh, wait a minute. There is stuff out here. There's ships out here. Well, let's fly some bombers and things. Let's go to Bomber Command. BICE in the war, hopefully that turns out for the best. Yes, we hope so too. Your core bombers. Yeah, we've got lots of bombers in places in good shape. I'm not doing a good job with them. some of these guys down to here. You may be close enough. No, you're not close enough. How big? Oh, big base here. You're okay. You get to have a nice Mediterranean holiday there. Okay, Luftflotte Cass. Okay, you can stop attacking. You're getting chewed up by fighters, probably mostly. You guys can come over to here maybe as well. There's the Coastal Command is up here. It's its own sort of thing because of reasons. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, it was. Am I just not paying proper attention here? Somewhere? Where am I? Just, well, Leader Course C. Here we go. Okay, you guys can come over to here, Barcelona. You'll like it better than winter in. Yeah, you can fly them this way. But yes, it might be getting a little cooler from where you've been. Yes. One thing I find ahistorical is the amount of fortresses. Yeah. The Siegfried line need to be constructed manually with a hefty cost. Yes. Now, TRE, just to let you know, Third Reich events, there are actually a series of events that you start an event chain that goes over a few years that covers the building up of, you know, whether you want to call it the Siegfried line, the West Wall, whatever, as well as mainly up in here, which was done at the same time, a flak zone, you know, heavily build up of anti-aircraft artillery. So you have that set up. I have in TRE reduced blanketly, well, okay, the effectiveness of forts has approximately doubled from vanilla Hoi 4 in Black Ice. I've moved it halfway back to vanilla. It's not all the way to vanilla, but it's halfway back there. Not the numbers or the amounts or where they are, as Beam Slam. Hello, Eric. Is talking about, but simply how effective they are. I think they're overly effective, and a bunch of them are historical, but my understanding is a bunch of them are based off of the idea of, hey, the AI is crap. We need to do something to make the players more challenged. And so I disagree with that basic premise. They need supplies, air supply. So yeah, it isn't all that historical. Control over the Mediterranean is lost. Major victory, because we no longer control some of these areas here. BC collaboration, okay. National manpower plus 20%, very good. We won here. That was a major victory. Okay, very nice. I wonder what's still sitting out here. We don't have any good reconnaissance before I send my ships out. So we're a lot better. Okay, you have some organization. You come in and fill the gap there. Really hard. Waiting for fuel, but you can still support the attack. Here, okay, they're pushing us back. I think they'll stop pushing us back once we get to where we have supplies. Yeah, no, the Germans shouldn't be stronger than the Maginot Line, that's for sure. I wonder if it's possible to edit from the start. Well, I remove all of the Maginot Line at the start of the game for TRE. Or not the Maginot Line, sorry. All of the west wall. Boy, that was a bad statement. Okay, let's start naval striking here. Hopefully damage whatever is there. They're there already. And hopefully try and tell us what is. Anything here. Maybe nothing. Okay. We'll send out the motor torpedo boats to find out. Yes. We've lost that. We're being pushed back. Okay, nothing actually here. Okay, great. So, no, let's... they're still holding here, and they're holding here. That may hold out for a little while. Right, okay, first movement. I'm in the wrong spot. It would help if I clicked the right spot, wouldn't it? Maybe not, but I could certainly try. I wanted another armored division. There we go. And, well, I guess a lot of clicking that way. Transport 2 there. That will get us immediately something to face off against the first division there. That will be of help. Okay, encryption advanced. Are there national focuses for this? No. Hello, Cherish 007. No national focuses. Those were put in with Hoi 4. There are events and decisions in this game. And they can become more elaborate, at least they do with some of the mods, than anything you find in Hoi 4. So there is not an easy roadmap for you to follow. That is true. Okay, encryption machine. We're going to stop researching that. Fighter ground crew training. Let that continue. Right. And we've lost here. We're being pushed back here. We got these nice additional flak units, but we don't have good units to stick them with. Okay, the hell? Well, the French are already retreating from here, and they forced me to retreat. Damn. Let's put you on board ships. You on board ships. They're going to be harder to push out of there, that's for sure. First we have to stabilize back here. Transport. Okay, we've won here? No, we won here. Okay, good. How is Japan doing? Hello, Nazgal 41. Let's hit this save button here. You can certainly take a look at Japan. Okay, occupying here, these nations here, although not in the Axis, are all their puppets. The Republic of China and Nanjing. So basically they're battling, and this has been trading provinces back and forth for quite some time now, battling along the border of Burma. Well, they've actually finally pushed out here much better. They had been doing poorly down here. And they're doing well out here now. They had, earlier they'd been pushed entirely out of Java. The AI, this is truly just the AI, not a scripted thing, did another landing here and are pushing them out of Java. And they've got, well, just about all the major ports. There's this little thing here in Sumatra. So they're still slowly, and it is sort of should be a slow task here just because infrastructure levels are poor to non-existent in some of these areas in Borneo. Yes, I do know. They are slowly pushing out in the Philippines. Their earliest invasions in the north got pushed back. They're still sort of holding out a bit in the Solomon Islands, and the Americans have done a major invasion here in Tinian, and looks like they're trying to do a cross-channel attack into Saipan. The Americans earlier had taken Guam. Americans have taken a couple of these islands out here, including this Kwajalein, as it's pronounced, at least. So it's a mixed setting out here on some of the islands in the Pacific, and slowly pushing here. That's how they're doing it. Hello, JYK, how you doing? Is naturally focusing on surviving against the East and beating back the West. That's exactly it. My whole test for this thing is, if I couldn't, I know people want to watch me do one of two things: slowly die a painful death and cheer at every deep cut into me as the Soviets push into Berlin, or see me be resurgent and from a bad position fight my way to the defeat of the Soviet Union. Okay, good. I can go with either one of those. Yes, actually, yes. This is actually sort of kind of working. Is that we're doing classic island hopping. Fortunately, for Japan, though I have seen it in the past, a big American doomstack comes in and invades Japan, and all of Japan's ground forces are somewhere else. And they didn't have enough naval force to stop it or in the right place. But this is actually fairly good. But we have noticed, and what Black Ice does with some of these units here, and we can see here, if you don't do anything about it, it is garrison here. You can see here they put so much weight on these different garrison forces so that they're functionally unmovable, because the Japanese AI would remove the garrisons on a lot of these islands and not do it. Like they invaded Guam and took out Guam and then removed all their forces. And they don't, I mean, that in theory would be good. In theory, not necessarily in practice, but in theory, if you had a Navy, one that is capable, whether the Navy is capable, and two, an AI capable of keeping invasions from happening by defeating the enemy fleets. So if you have the fleets, you don't need big, strong garrisons on islands. So the developers here, now some of these are there's 3 standard infantry divisions here that the AI can move around. I don't see a garrison division there, but we can see a garrison unit here. The AI can't move them off, so it keeps some level of defenses here. So yeah. We want them to hold as long as they can. I have played games in which doing very well, like I said, and noticed Japan being gutted here and sent over a bunch of heavy panzer divisions to defeat some uber marine units, and some of the marine units are rather uber. Okay, they are invading us with this HQ unit, I guess. Okay, well. So we've got here there. I actually do, I've been dooming. Oh, okay. Been doom and glooming at the beginning of this episode here on the Eastern Front. I do believe, I may be wrong, I do believe I can hold back the Soviet hordes so long as I have supply. What I don't believe I can just presume to do. No, I'm not saying it's impossible or anything, or I wouldn't do it, but I don't just presume that I can do that, hold back and then turn back the Soviet hordes and properly garrison the West against invasions. So we've got to be able to we've just won Rotterdam and a Jaeger division. Shattered in Amsterdam. Okay. Spain would like some energy. You may have some energy, Spain. Oh, we're holding out here. Okay, they're going to take back Baku. What? Okay. These guys go to here. These guys go to there. Don't want to be cut off from there. Got this division down here. Good. Hey, Niagara. And so if I can Okay, we've won the Battle of Algiers with our reinforcements. So if I can defeat this, looks like they're being defeated there. Okay, we're going to send the light armor here. And this armor this way. If we can defeat this, still a big if, and if we can hold here, that is sort of my test for what's going on with, you know, if we can hold the rest of Europe and then be able to turn things around. One here, good. Lost. Oh, what? Oh, okay. Uprising. Well, let's send the police. Military police, that is. That's why we have them, and they should be able to battle partisans. The British are busting out here. They've got ports. So now we have to get in here and take this port out. And they've effectively been given mulberry ports here. Those are very big ports. Under attack. We've lost this province. Okay, they pushed into here. Those guys have no supply, no organization. Okay, we're gonna send the better forces that way. Here. Okay, we've won against at least their probing attacks down here. And one of the reasons I sent, well, several reasons I sent these motorized forces this way. One, if this area here with this open terrain collapses, they can push into the hills and cut off these other forces here. But, you know, and which would be very bad, obviously. Now, here we have some armor, definitely, but we also have mountain forces in the mountain hoping to hold back that. Now, we did, prior to the start of this episode, send some forces around. Let's send you to here. Let's send one. Yukon rating, just in case there's any supply being operated here. Okay, well, good. Good, nice that you're having a good vacation. I hope it's good with your parents. So, the test is happening now. Steps. Here we are counterattacking with some forces. Well, what I am right now considering is another, okay, we can see that there are some forces here. See if we can do an invasion with a bunch of these units here. Now, we have forces coming, being built that have heavy armor in them, including just some heavy armored units. So if we can keep things supplied, could be all right. Could be. Okay. Oh, you are. Oh, you stop going that way. You support that attack just to make sure that gets done. Well, the best supply we can do is through the ports. And if we can get supply down here, it would be useful. An army unit there. Finish post, good. Okay, well, I guess I'm going to send you guys that way. Bet is not thinking we're a good bet. Pushing us back out of here. Lovely. Well, you know, let's counterattack. Yeah, let's counterattack. Okay, our main ship is here. Now what I'm going to do here is be just, oh, well, doesn't tell me what I, okay, there. I'm going to put you on board ship. And you guys on board ship. And let's see if we can do a naval invasion here. No, we're not going to transport to Algiers. We're going to do an invasion there. You don't have supplies. Okay, yes, you may have all the metal you want. We have more than enough metal. Hello, Incranat Finn. I'm just going to call you Finn. How's that? How's that? Only building infrastructure in Hawaii where it wasn't such a micro. Yeah, there is that. I totally get that idea. A lot of micromanagement with that. Yeah, we won here. Cool. Lost a transport, which is not nice, but we need to supply this area. If we don't, we won't hold the area. We need those supplies, but we also need to. Okay, naval strike there. Let's just park you up there. Hopefully suppress there. Really good, my friend loves it, but I'm stuck with the darkest hour or Hoi 4. It's too dense to pick up. Well, Tinky, yeah, I understand. I will agree it's not for everybody. Hoi 4, I mean Hoi 3 Black Ice. We're battling a huge number of subs here. Good job, guys. Okay, they're good. This button here. And I want to thank you all for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. I want to thank Timothy and Sir Toyjet and the Hoffmanator and Chief and many others for your support over on Patreon. But if everybody else would just hit the like button, post a comment, and subscribe if you're new here. Love to see you around more often. Thanks, everyone. Okay, guys, I'm not going anywhere, at least. Just wanted to end the episode. I'm going to grab a Coke and be back. I wish I have access at your saves. No, I'm not going to give out my saves. Things have been modified on my setup here, so your save wouldn't necessarily be functional, because it's not based on an exactly standard game. So there is sort of that. It doesn't, so it wouldn't work unless you had my whole game, the whole package. I'll be right back. Almost back. Almost back. You know, no, I think we'll continue with this. All right. So we've got good everything, even good oil. We're not worried about resources. We're worried about defeating the enemies of National Socialism. Manpower, is it kind of low? Yes, very low. We have the big reason it's low is so many units have been fighting to being gutted, and not just fighting to the loss of organization. So, yeah. Okay, we're going to attack. Yeah, we're going to basically counterattack here and here. This city battle isn't going terribly well. Yeah, we aren't doing well. No one thinks that this is. No one should think that this is doing well. This is just us trying to struggle through here. Okay. Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3's Black Ice 10.41, I believe this is. And we are being pushed back steadily on the Eastern Front. We have gotten rid of this one beachhead here, and we are battling out this beachhead here. Yep, you're going on the offensive. So are you. And we're dealing with the torch landings. Nope, they're being. Oh, no, did we? Nope, we've been retreating back. Okay. Oh boy. Well. Why are we retreating? We're in so good shape. Damn Iranians. They're pushing their fleets back, it looks, or their subs back. Oh good, we won up here. Oh great, our invasion worked. Our invasion worked. So let's start sending some of these forces this way to face off with. Yeah, well, let's send all of these because we're going to have a bunch more coming here. We're going to they're all being attacked. I don't know. You guys get into it. Memka. Get your parachute unit in there. And we've won in Harlem. Okay, well, now we're going to allied objectives. No longer have Italy. Allied objective to here. And where was the other one? There was, I think I gave two. Oh, here in Rotterdam. Okay, guys, you can go home. Go back to the Mediterranean. And no, I haven't called Italy into here yet. I was going to see if they did it on their own or if we needed help. Okay, let's find a closer, higher authority. Order back. Yeah, West here, shall. Okay, shall's good. Yeah. Okay, that gets all these guys into better organization levels. You know, and mentioning, talking to Tink, and not able to get into Hoi 3. And I totally understand that. It's a complicated game. Takes a long time. But, and it may not look at this, and of course I take a lot of time to do this, pause and talk to you, so that's absolutely true. But I very much think that I'm playing this at light speed. If I were playing on my own, it's just a detailed pleasure for me to play this game. You know, just talking about like micromanaging also infrastructure. And yeah, that's not what I want to build and worry about. But it just, all the little details, just slow down, plan out operations, deal with this stuff. Now, like, something I would like is the air war much more automated than I don't want to have to deal with. So there's definitely areas that I don't want to have to deal too much with, for sure. But I really like that sort of an idea. Oh, we've retaken, or well, we've secured that. That is good. So it's the, I don't know that, you know, for you, whoever you are watching out there, I don't know, you know, if that's the type of game you want to play, where you lovingly build up panzer corps and organize them up and operate them in different fields. And it's a grand strategy game, so obviously it's big. Okay, so we've got that stopped here. But yeah, so I totally get that it may not be for everyone. We're going to leave this light infantry unit here because it's in the mountains and it's holding across the river here, so it's not going to be attacked too well, and it does have anti-tank. We're going to move this infantry division up here to support yes, Niagara, and so this is probably very much the game for you, because it is a good game. I've yet, quite honestly, if you're looking for, and I've not played World in Flames, which is a great old game. They do have a computerized version of it now. It's very detailed, but there's no AI for it, so you can only play it against other players. But there is, and that's the only thing that even comes close, in my opinion, to a grand strategy game with this much detail. Even, Hoi 4 comes close in many ways, but just doesn't quite make it for me. All right, so depends on what you want to do with units. Okay, well, let's put you on board. Mountain units are reasonably good at naval invasions. I don't think I have enough air units to try to drop you, so we're going to turn you into a type of rates as well. And Jaeger units can be, okay, well, they're full. Okay, well, we've filled up this. We're going to try to do it's too far away. Okay, so let's look at supply levels. Okay, we're getting supply into here. I'm gonna hope this is close enough, so let's just rebase to here. Oh, well, they're gonna have to come back. Oh no, well, let's cancel that. Let's rebase to here, and we'll do a naval invasion from here down into there. That should be able to do it. This is just a command element. I don't know what's happened to the rest of the forces here. There should I think have been more, but I don't know. Those are off. Money shortage imminent. Okay, now what the hell? I'm gonna deal with this. Okay, okay, I totally disagree with this money thing. Hate me if you want to, but Money, yeah, we're gonna go with 4,000. Hopefully that effect will go away from us. Totally disagree with this money thing, the way they've done it. We lost over here. Oh, they're pushing in somewhere. Okay. Division shattered. So here. I think our other units have made it here, have they? Yes, here. Okay. Oh, yeah. That's where I set them. Okay, so these guys come back to Sutton. Yeah, just for those watching who haven't watched all the stuff before, I see money in Hearts of Iron 3 purely as a means of international exchange to buy and sell things, and it can be, primarily, obviously, it's, resources, but you can set it up for other stuff. I have a bunch of events that cost money, but they're all things like, pay for spies to go in some other country. So you're giving them some money so that the spies can operate. Or, oh, hey, support this political party in this other country. Well, you need to give them money to support, and money not in your currency, in their currency. So for me, the money is an international expense, not a national one. So I just fundamentally disagree with their use of money. So the great bulk of their use of money in those situations are removed with TRE. So I do not feel bad about quote unquote cheating by giving myself all of that. Okay, well, let's put you on board ships. Let's put you on board ships. I know there's some in the north. And then let's see if we can get ship. And you come down, transport down to here. Back, fine. We've lost out here. Wow. There is. Oh, is that the unit that shattered, maybe? Flieger Division. That's the unit that shattered out here. Okay, that's what we lost. Oh boy. 7th Flieger. Well, let's send them down here. That may be the fastest way back to Persia if we're going to keep our airborne command operating down here. Well, we'll see how that works. How these guys are going after the partisans. You're attached to the command up there, so let's attach you over here. Yeah, I should have organized. And I do enjoy organizing up these forces, but I just don't properly with the videos. Just don't take the time. You're here now, so you join the attack. See, is there a... Yeah. Where to? There we go. Money. Okay, we've lost the effects. Very good. And, I may be still buying some resources or something here, but I really don't need to be. So money is not an issue. Okay. No, I don't want this. Money in World War II. It was a very, very important thing. Prior to the start of World War II, this is sort of the money talk, and I'm going to try to keep this fairly short compared to some of my talks on it. But prior to the start of World War II, Germany had serious money problems. But its primary money problems were dealing with foreign money problems, if you will. There were serious limitations on how much money a German citizen could take out of Germany. So if you were going to say, oh, I'm going to go for a 10-day holiday in France, basically, you had to go as cheap as possible, not because of how much money you had in Germany, but how much money the government was going to let you have. Because you're going to go out for 10 days? Okay. You can take out, I don't know, 200 Reichsmarks or something like that. So you can spend 20 Reichsmarks a day or whatever equivalency, and you would get that in exchange. And that was sort of the amount that you could take out. And they monitored every single banking transaction, probably everywhere in Germany, but definitely everyone's going in and out. And so you had to get permission, like if you wanted to buy rubber, because all rubber is imported. No, I'm not talking synthetic rubber. They were developing that, but all natural rubber is imported. So, and they wanted people to have rubber, but they only had so much US dollars, so much British pounds, French francs, or gold or silver, or some other medium of exchange that the world at large was going to take. They didn't have lots of it, they had some. And they had to they chose to keep paying off their debts regarding, to some degree, not entirely, because the U.S. does withdraw its ambassador at one time from Germany over lack of paying off post-World War I debts. Again, what happens is Germany loses this thing called World War I. The winners say, you got to give us money, a lot of it. Germany is in no place to say anything but yes. Germany doesn't have the money. The U.S. has the money, so the U.S. loans the money to Germany. This is all keeping the stuff short. Loans a lot of the money that Germany needs to pay off the war reparations. And then, of course, the U.S. wants its money back, over time. Not right away. It's a loan. It's meant to be paid back over time. And so, and the loan is not paid back in Deutschmarks or Reichsmarks or whatever the money was called during the Weimar period. I don't quite know for sure, quite honestly. But it's to be paid back in US dollars over time. Germany is having trouble getting enough US dollars to pay it back, even before the Nazis come into power. And so, they can't just, hello, Omar, how you doing? So they just can't print the money to pay off their international debt. Okay, so money is a critical thing for Germany. And if we were talking about pre-war, and like I say, for TRE, I've disabled a bunch of the internal money needs for all the nations, not just Germany. It's equally gone for everybody, like to pay for things internally. Because I'm looking at that as the ability to print money, and we could get into a lot of the details of what Schacht and others, once they're in charge and actually do manage the money reasonably well. TIK is Austrian economics kind of person, and I do like his talk, so I don't fully agree with him, but I generally think he's on the right track. Long term, it's a different issue than short term. So yes, money is incredibly important before the war. Money is incredibly important in the early days of the war, particularly for the Western Allies, because part of France and Britain's military industrial might is located here in the United States. That's how it was in World War I. That's how it's starting to shape up in World War II. And in the beginning days of the war, both France and Britain need to pay for things, as in spend money on stuff. And now, particularly the British pound was considered strong, and this is prior to the Battle of France. So a lot of companies, individuals, whatever, would be happy to be paid in British pounds, so long as the British pounds are thought to be strong and they weren't inflating them. Basically, more or less gold backed, but not entirely. But they also want US dollars and gold and whatnot. So like early on, Britain buys a lot of the available stock of Thompson submachine guns. Now, that's after the Battle of France. And I think they go for, if modern day adjusted inflation, $1,000+ a submachine gun. Where modern day adjusted inflation, it's like $20 or something for a Sten gun that they later build on their own. So these are expensive submachine guns. And they were always, Thompson's guns were expensive. Hello, Yoshihisa. How you doing? Shimazu. Good to have you here live with me. And so Britain needs to come up with money to buy stuff internationally. And so that's very important. Britain, I don't know if it's still on the gold standard. Now, America goes off the gold standard. So although, do understand, well, very good. Do understand that during the FDR administration, they confiscate all gold in the United States that isn't specifically jewelry. So all gold bullion, all gold coins, they confiscate it all. They pass laws and they confiscate it. So anybody holding gold bullion or holding gold coins is doing so illegally. And many people do, but you cannot use that, and so they, as a means of exchange. So the U.S. government has in the past, and very well may in the future, confiscate something like all gold. My father thinks they're going to try to outlaw or confiscate all Bitcoin. I don't think blockchain works in such a way in which they would be able to, but that's another matter. I mean, as a practical source, not that they could pass all kinds of laws if they want to. So money early on, before the war, early war, has a very big importance. But if you've noted everything I've said, all of its importance before and during the war. Importance, not, yes, Britain is paying its soldiers in British pounds. They don't want the British pound to become, they don't want to inflate it by just printing a whole lot of it and then other people in the world not wanting to take it as a, means of exchange. So yeah, they do have a situation of, deficits and worrying about paying their soldiers and their sailors, but it's not the big concern. Once the war is going, prior to the war getting going, yes, it's a concern, but it's not like, damn, if we just had more British pounds, we could draft some more soldiers or sailors, but no, we can't pay them, so we can't draft them. That's never an issue. I'm not saying it's not something that some bankers and finance clerks somewhere aren't, sweating bullets over figuring out all the the elements of it, but it's not something that is being thought of either at a grand strategic level, which is, sort of at this level, or even at sort of a, local strategy level, where you're moving your divisions. They're not worrying about, hello, Fat Franco, how you doing? They're not worrying about, do we have enough money for the gasoline? No, they're worrying about, do we have gasoline, in what, the division in the theater, or grand strategically. Do we have the gasoline? Do we have the means to transport it? That's what they're worried about, not paying for it once the war gets started. And, if they don't have it and they got to buy it internationally, yeah, they're worried about that part of it. But if they have it, whether it's gasoline or the oil, if they control Iraq, and they later, Britain invades, and mostly they're the ones that are securing the Iranian oil. The Soviet Union is just sort of securing the northern, third or half, however you want to, of the country, more as a strategic option for Lend-Lease supplies. So if they control the internal elements of getting the oil and then have enough refineries to turn it into gasoline, they're not worrying about buying it. Now, they do end up needing to buy stuff just for various reasons from the U.S. But, so that's before and mid-war, or early war. Now, by mid-war, we have the situation is that the U.S. is starting to go from, cash and carry, because that was actually what it was called, cash and carry. We're neutral, but we'll sell to people, but you've got to show up with cash, and you have to carry it out. Okay, so that was part of it, and that's why the term cash and carry was used. So in theory, Italy could send a ship to America and buy a bunch of weapons and sail it back to, in theory, to Italy. But yeah, things like the Straits of Gibraltar and what were keeping it from happening, and all the British fleets in the North Sea were keeping Germany from cash and carry. Now, Japan had its embargoes in the U.S. and placed on it because of what it was doing in China, and that's a whole nother story. But, oh, hello, IKB. Paying sailors, darn. Lot gets pressed into service and the payment is issued for later British tradition. Yeah, definitely 18th century, they were periodically paid off, in like every 6 months or something, or at the end of a commission. You're absolutely right, Tinky. I don't know. I think they were getting regular pay, though low pay, and maybe even script. But I don't know about that. The U.S., well, that's another whole story about script. The U.S. tries to control soldiers in the theater, so they don't want to give them U.S. dollars. They want to give them script that could later be exchanged for U.S. dollars, but that's another whole story. We're not going to get there. Laws that are not or cannot be enforced are worthless. They are worthless and counterproductive because they show the state is incapable of doing its duties. Imagine that financial minister told Churchill that he needed to cut down on his war expenses in 1940 because it was too expensive. Exactly, Beam Slam. So now that doesn't mean finance ministers didn't have real jobs, but you can't tell Churchill to stop dropping bombs because they can't afford new bombs or whatever. Or, hey, yeah, we don't have the fuel to fly we can't pay for the fuel to fly the fighters in the Battle of Britain. No, we may not have it physically. If they have it, they're going to somehow secure it. So this is how the U.S. pretends to stay neutral in that cash and carry, that if Germany could show up, we'll sell you weapons or resources or whatever else. Or Italy, if they could show up, we'll sell resources, or theoretically Hungary or whoever that's in the war in the Axis, we would theoretically do it. And so Britain, or France, until France is knocked out, it's cash and carry. And this is carried on to the point, and they even sort of do it and makes it into some of the movies, is somewhere, I'm not sure where, along the U.S.-Canada border, they would fly the aircraft that the U.S. were making to in an airfield nearby the border, and then they would taxi or tow the aircraft up to the edge of the border. It wasn't where there's a river, it was a place where there wasn't, literally up to the border, and then park the aircraft literally right on the border, and then somebody from the British purchasing authorities or Canadians or whatever would literally walk across the painted line in the road, hook a hook onto the aircraft, and tow it, pull, drag, whatever you want to call it, the aircraft across the border into Canada. So that it wasn't the U.S. delivering war materials, particularly. Not so much, they weren't worried about like delivering steel or a resource into Canada. They were, those trains were going back and forth. But the idea of a weapon, that they didn't want to be seen as delivering it to a combatant. So I'm not saying they didn't have trains with rifles going across the border, but they were sort of making an ongoing show of turning over, and there was only, 10 or 20 aircraft a day, so it wasn't like they were doing a huge number of stuff, but they were towing these aircraft across the border to show that, oh, no, we're not flying them into to Canada. We're not, the U.S. is not delivering them to a combatant. They're either showing up with their ships in our ports and we're loading them onto the ships and the ships go away, or they are, carrying it one method or another across the border without our assistance. What is the green area in England? Okay, I can get to that in a moment here. I swear it fell out of the truck, Mr. Hitler. Yes, Nazca, you're right. So, that's early on. But once you start getting to lend, lease, and beyond, and including just more and more as the Axis is losing, but an exchanging of resources, money is no longer the issue. In the United States, it's not do we have the money? Now, the negative consequences, and I've also the total war, no, not total war, not total war. The other guys, not Black Ice, not Total War, World Ablaze and Hoi 4, Uncharted. I've talked to him a bit about money and whatnot, and he is much more on the TIK side. He has a lot of inflationary type things built into his mod that I disagree with the severity at the time. Notice what I said, at the time. What the U.S. does is it moves to for the richest people, but also for a lot of other people. They increase the amount of taxes up to about 90%. Now, you're not necessarily making, I don't know, $1,000, which was a lot of money. When you could buy a house in a suburb for like $4,000, $1,000 a year isn't a lot of money. Or it is a significant amount of money. It isn't. You're not poor at making $1,000 a year. But it's not like you're making $1,000 a year, they're taking all but $100. No, it's once you get to let's go over $50,000. Any money you make over $50,000 per year, or whatever the amount was, don't quote me on these exact amounts, that money is taxed at 90%. So it's almost, or 100,000 or wherever it was. And you slice down, and then at 40, money at over 40,000 is taxed at 75%. And it's sort of in a way. So it's higher than that, but it's what levels it's taxed at. They're taxing huge amounts of money, and they're also issuing war bonds, which are trying to pull money out of the system into the government to be able to pay for this thing. Well, this goes until the 1960s. Until it's JFK that reduces these super high tax rates, because they are taking the effects of World War II, the monetary effects of World War II, and they continue I think there's still some effects to this day, paying off loans and whatnot. But they definitely go into the 60s and the 70s, paying off governmental type debts that were incurred during World War II, even by the victors. So, yes, there's a lot of bad things happen with the debt spendings and all the stuff that's going on. Thank you so much, Arno. So you have a lot of that, but those are really, if managed well, and we can look at both the U.S. and Germany and Britain during the war at how they managed them, and they do manage them fairly well. And some of it is, with all the nations, to whatever degree they are rationing things. Sometimes, and I know Britain rationing because I've watched a documentary series on it in the past. Best, but in sort of details. In Britain, some of the stuff they're rationing is not because they don't have enough. Well, they don't have enough to meet everybody's demand, but it's not an essential thing. But what they don't want to have is a price spike. So they don't, and if IKB's around or whatever and knows some of this stuff a little better, I don't think they ration beer or tea. They keep that unrationed, but they ration spirits, whiskey and whatnot. And it's not that they don't necessarily have enough whiskey, or they're too worried that some rich person is going to buy up the whiskey and the poor people won't. They just don't want to see a price spike on a limited commodity. So yes, don't forget to like if you're watching this on YouTube. It does help the algorithm. So some of it is they just don't want economic price spikes. Some of it is like basic foodstuffs. They want to make sure everybody is well enough fed. So I'm looking at Britain, and this is more with Germany. In the U.S., they ration things like gasoline. They ration gasoline in the U.S. The U.S. is drowning in gasoline. The U.S. Has no problem. And I'm not just talking oil here. I'm talking gasoline. The U.S. has absolutely no problem delivering enough gasoline to everybody who wants possible gasoline. They could just start, having big, huge pipelines spill gasoline out into the, streets or the ocean and go, hey, we got plenty of gasoline. See, here it's just flowing like water. And it's going to flow like water forever. And the U.S. could do that. Why do they ration gasoline? Because they don't have rubber or enough rubber for the war effort. It's not because they don't have gasoline, it's because they don't have rubber. How do you keep people from using up rubber? Well, rubber, one of the major consumable uses of it is in car tires, and they wear out. They've gotten a lot better technology in rubber tires now versus back then, but they wear out, and a lot faster than they do today. So what they wanted to do was again, want and need are two different things. They want to have all of the commercial trucking that needs rubber to drive, trains were still the primary. Highways were almost unknown, or at least, they had, like Route 66 did exist. There's an old TV show, did exist before World War II, but those are like one lane each way roads that aren't anything like the Autobahn or modern highways that are, banked and set up to be driven fast on. These are just, and they sometimes called highways back then, definitely, but these are just connecting roads that are paved, that are, major connecting routes. But they're not like what in the West we call them freeways, because you don't pay tolls on them, or Autobahn type highway things. They're nothing like that. That basically doesn't exist in the United States at any scale. I'm not going to say it doesn't exist, period. I'm saying it at any scale, it doesn't exist. The Pasadena Freeway is built post-war. It's more Santa Monica area here, not Santa Barbara, Santa Monica. It's coming in from Pasadena into LA here. See, Pasadena mountains. You don't have TRE installed, or you'd have not TRE, California Province Picture Mod that I made. That gives a lot of these historical photos for their regions. So those don't exist yet. But there is still a lot of trucking going on, not so much interstate trucking like we think of it. Oh, sure, around densely packed places around here. It's mostly rail, but still local communications. Hello, Crazy Warrior Cat fan, how you doing? So it's mostly like in and around with a, city or local regional areas. There's a lot of trucking. They want to keep that going, and they want to keep, they maybe need to keep that going, but they want to keep a lot of people for their productivity, shall we say. Not always war or associated, but for their productivity, need to be able to drive a car around, or a truck on a farm, or whatever. They want to keep that going, and they want to keep general civilian population to be able to drive their cars once in a while. Maybe to work every day, but let's carpool. Let's ride share. Let's do things like that. So they they want to keep that going, but they don't want to use up too much rubber. So they set up the rationing system in the US for gasoline. And if you had a job that is war related, that part of the job you needed to drive your car around, you got a lot of gas rationing stamps. You still had to pay for the gas, and maybe your job paid you money, or maybe the job paid for the gas, but you still had to pay the gas, but you got lots of rationing stamps for it. If you're just, hey, I own a private car, I could take and there were a lot more in the past. They got rid of the ones in LA, though they built new ones since. A lot more of, light rail type transit systems, some underground, some above ground, some just above ground. Sort of kind of means in a lot of these cities suspended above ground in the US, not just on the ground, but some on the ground, that you might be able to take that to and from your work and walk a bunch, but still go that, but be able to have a car and go on a weekend picnic once in a while or something. They want to keep that going, but they want to radically reduce your driving habits, so they give you minimal amounts of rationing, gasoline rationing, and you could save up the rationing coupons to then be able to get enough gas for it. So it isn't that particular one. Rationing is to save rubber. Other rationing that they're doing in the US is price rationing. It's not necessarily availability entirely. Some of it is non-competitive. They want to get supplies for the military and the Navy and whatnot. But that is a way to keep people from spending money. A lot of times, the rationing, including things like cloth rationing. They're doing that to keep people from spending money, so that people invest money in war bonds. I know this is still the short talk on money in World War II, and I've done various versions of this before. And so all of this does have a massive effect years down the road to the economies that aren't wrecked simply by being bombed and stomped out of existence, but just like the US being disrupted, even though it's not being attacked militarily. But it doesn't have, in my opinion, significant economic effect, as into the effectiveness of the amount of supplies needed or other modifiers like we can see up here. It would have, in my opinion, and I agree with, they do have the ability to ration to then get more resources. Any national unity and national support kind of things like that, morale. So those kind of effects, yes, but not in an economic effect, in my opinion, during the war. So I totally disagree with the money situation. So that's why I feel happy to cheat this in, because it was part of the reason we're looking at it. Now, why is this green here I was asked earlier on, I know, in Britain? Well, if you didn't know, during World War II, Britain allowed the United States, I'm trying to use the words correctly here, Britain allowed the United States to build a lot of bases in Britain of various types. Sort of famously, air bases to eventually, to bomb Germany and whatnot. And although they were, generally speaking, not given the idea of extraterritoriality and the idea of like American ownership, but they were effectively American reservations, meaning the policing was done, especially if it didn't associate with a British citizen, done by the Americans. And because there's, Forsyth's War or whatever, a British sort of detective series set and show some of his conflicts with some of the Americans going on. So, they're not quite extraterritoriality, but sort of functionally that way. The problem, so there's sort of little, lots of bases that are sort of, in essence, become sort of temporary American property run and administered by the Americans. Well, this game, the AI, the Americans may build a lot of bombers and fighters and everything else, but if it isn't controlled by America, the Americans the AI does not seem to be very aggressive at going after Germany. So they'll stack up their bombers and see if there's any bombers within, or any enemy territory within bomber range from American air bases. And there won't be. So what Black Ice's solution is to sort of give this little area and make sure there's a huge amount of, I think these are all level 10 air bases, high level of flak guns and coastal defense and radar, in the hopes, and it has been shown to be the case, that the Americans will send bombers and will decide to bring in an invasion force into one of these ports, because they could invade German-held territory from the range of some of these ports. So this is to help the AI. This, I think, only happens if America is AI, that they get this little bit of territory. They also get a similar sort of thing out here in Australia, and another one over here in Australia. And it was sort of that kind of way in little sort of base control situations. So that's why you have the green there. Right, let's go back to North Africa. Well, okay, so we have now won here. We have beaten a British division. Well, the British invasion of 3 divisions, I should say, and that is a good thing. And that is with me having sent all 6 of the Panzer divisions that we had down to Spain, and I sent 2 back up here that have gotten here by now, but we'll see about that. Right. Well, I think we're going to keep this from going too long, and we're going to save. And we're going to end the episode, not the live stream. Oh, no, we already have one. I'll do this again, just to make sure. Not the live stream, so you guys just hang loose if you want to stay around. But all the rest of you, thank you so much for making this far. I hope my talks on economies are interesting, informative. If you have anything you want to say, corrections, whatever, please post them below. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron. Okay, guys, I'm going to reboot this. Well, just the Ahoy 3 here, not the whole system. So you're going to go to black screen. Yes, it's dark, but no, the monsters won't get to you this time. Maybe next time, but not this time. And we'll be coming back up here very shortly. They mostly come at night, mostly. Yes. The real skill is to you be the monster. Not that you need to go hurt other people or terrorize other people or anything like that, but you be the dangerous one. You be the one that is feared in the dark, not fear the dark or fear those in the dark. You be the one. You be the one that if somebody does something, they're the ones that will regret it. People are too soft these days. Before we get into the live stream, here's a tip. If things are ever starting to be uncomfortable and it's dark, I don't mean in a city with street lights dark. I mean out at night at dark, or even like in a home that's dark. What you do is you get low. You go down low. Maybe onto your belly, but you just go down low. Especially outside, but even in a house. You get low. Do you think the softness is caused by hormonal dysfunction or just cultural stuff? I don't know anything about hormonal dysfunction, whether I've heard people talk about it, but I have no idea how real, what the effects, anything. So I whether it's real or not, I don't have a real opinion. I know people mention stuff. I don't have an opinion on it. It's cultural. It's life has become easy for a lot of people. And not that life shouldn't be easy, but that doesn't mean you don't prepare for life not being easy, whether it's just moments or, at night going in a dark parking lot or something, or I don't know, if there's a pandemic that happens and power goes out and society happens to break down, I don't know. I'll always crouch to the fridge from now on and conserve energy. Well, see, you get low. And what you do then is, especially outside, you get low and you look up. Not like straight up, but you look up, because the night sky will silhouette anything that's moving around. So if you have, whether it's a tree, a house, or a person, or a bear, and they're moving and you're low and it's silhouetted against the night sky, especially if you go outside of cities where you see, the stars and whatnot, you'll be able to see them better than they see you. Hope the battery for the phone flashlight. But you see, if you have a flashlight, you've just given away your position. You said, I'm over here. This is if things are getting scary. You go low, and that way, whether it's being seen or if there's gunshots or whatever that might be, you're now low, and you're looking up, and you're being dark, and you're being what they fear in the dark. You're having them turn their phones on so you see where they are. They don't see you. So so if you're hearing bump, clunk, boom in the night in your home, and you're the only one that lives there, and then it keeps making noise inside your home, meaning not just something maybe you put there that fell over, but if there's stuff still going on, well, and you want to go find out what's moving around your home at night and you live alone, or even if you have other people living with you and you don't want to, bump into them, or they may be scared too or something, you get low and you move low. And so this way, if you bump into somebody, you're bumping into their ankles, and then you can pull and jerk their ankles out from under them because they're standing up tall. So that's why low gets you down, get you in the place of strength when vision and sight become unreliable, and you hope they use their limited source of light have testosterone levels. Yeah, I don't, I guess fall in the last 40 years. Well, I guess I'm over 50, so I'm in the earlier testosterone thing or something. I don't know. I don't have an opinion, and I've heard things like that, Finn, but I don't have an, because I don't know how to judge it. I'm not saying they're wrong, not saying they're right. I look and study cultural things, and they may be a mix, or maybe one affects the other ones. Bears have phones. Oh my God, I can keep out my husband like crazy. So yes, the idea of lowness is to be. See, you're supposed to be the scary thing in the dark. You're supposed to scare the bears, not the bears afraid of you. I'm not afraid of a bear. I don't live, even when I've lived in the country where there was sort of high desert, no bears. A few big cats. I mean, like pumas or whatever. Mountain lions, I guess you'd call, but not really cats. So yeah, just you should be the scary thing at night, not be scared of the night. That's the key. Okay. Flag. Okay, so we've won here. They're still sort of attacking here. Let's shift it here. Yes, absolutely, Beam Slam. That crest lines at night. Whatever the different ideas of it is, just you get down low. So if you're often there is, yeah, you can go to places like Kansas where there's no mountains, and Russia, plains of Russia, it does exist, but often there's some sort of hill or whatever, and if there's two of you standing next to each other and it's truly dark, you often cannot see each other. But if one of you just sort of crouch down and sort of look at the night sky, you'll see the other one of you. They're perfectly outlined, even if it's sort of cloudy. Now, if it gets cloudy enough at night, yeah, it's dark enough that your lights but you roar in a surprised way. You get ready to do it. But so you can do that kind of thing, and just sort of get a little low and see, oh yeah, there's my buddy standing next to me. But if you're standing at like roughly equal head heights, often you can't even make out their silhouette. So yeah, that's just the way to make them be afraid of you, not you afraid of them. We are not in Kansas anymore. Yes, I don't think I've ever been to Kansas. Kansas is right there. That's Kansas. It's Kansas. And is this Topeka, Kansas? Right. Okay. Nevada, Missouri. That's Oklahoma. I've been to Texas. Been to New Mexico. What's that? Colorado? No, this is Colorado. Been to Colorado. Wyoming. Been to Wyoming. Yes. Been a lot of these western states here, but not Kansas. Here, this is Kansas. So I know my geography basically. Of course, that's what she said, Arno. That's from The Wizard of Oz. That was Dorothy. We're not in Kansas anymore. What is Kansas known for? Well, I know it is a very flat place. Dresden, Kiev, troop transport. What? Why is that showing up now? I know we're supposed to keep this advertiser friendly. Okay, let's start another episode now that we'll get off my at dark night talk. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. This is Gamer1745 here, playing Hearts of Iron 3's Black Ice 10.41. Taking a look at it, we have defeated... Oh, well, before we get into this, if you haven't already, please like the video, subscribe, post a comment below. But I specifically want to thank Timothy, Sir Toyjet, the Hoffmanator, Chief, Sircon, and others for your support over on Patreon over the time. But everyone else, just hit that like button. Really do appreciate it. So, yes, we've defeated the... and I want to say, there was a British naval invasion here in the Netherlands, targeting Rotterdam, but they landed to the north and to the south and tried to push in. The current Black Ice team, and if you've watched, you know I have, we were just talking about it in the last episode, severe money disagreements of how money should be used. But they have been able to, going to give it, you keep wanting to step back and tell the full story. Let's see, for the Motherland and before that DLC and before, there were a lot of suicide naval invasions. You could leave one port open and the Allies would invade, and then you could just crush them, rinse and repeat, just bleed Britain dry, and it was bad. Well, they overreacted to it and made naval invasions not happy so much. But, and this is something that we as modders really can't get into, is to combat AI decision making. But they have found that Marine units are still aggressively, AI Marine units will, if the AI has enough of them, will invade, do naval invasions. So they have, beyond historical levels, told countries like Britain, like America, like Japan, to build Marine units so that the AI will have a better chance of, yes, a DF type raid, though they did theirs in the Netherlands, so that they had, so that there will be, more aggressive naval invasion operations, and that is a good thing. Now, it worked out very well here, in my opinion. We see all this Italian reaction because I gave Italy two objectives here, is to try to get them up there, and they came up about the time I was able to solve the problem. But if I hadn't been able to do so, it would have been a serious problem. What this is good is that it forces the player to maintain a defensive setup here in the west while fighting in the east. Now, fortunately, this happened at a good time when we were losing on the Eastern Front. So it makes sense. Yes, it was defeated, but it cost us a lot to defeat it. It sent some of our newly raised forces here, nice armored division with mechanized forces, was deployed here and not somewhere else. That was useful, and it has now taught me that I can't allow these forces to be too weak here. Now, while that was still going on, the scripted invasion happened down here. Now, what we should see is this is now United States territory, currently under the control of the Vichy government. This will tell the AI, because the AI is programmed to liberate, particular national AI is to liberate territories. So instead of nobody thinking, and maybe not so once we, attack somewhere else, or clear all this out, they may not do invasions into here, but that this here, Casablanca, is now U.S. territory, even if we take it back, and it'll be controlled by Vichy, but it'll be U.S. territory here, where this is just British, because we can see it's British controlling Vichy. We very well may see repeated American naval invasions against Casablanca, so we will need to garrison it better than simply allowing some, few light Vichy forces sitting around. And that is key to the situation here, because without an aggressive, particularly American naval invasion, in my opinion, it is too easy against the Soviet Union. Okay, well. They're falling back to there. Biggest problem is we had a division shatter. Are you attacking? We'll support the attack. There we go. Okay, Finn, thanks for showing up. I hope everyone here has either hit the follow or subscribe button like I was just talking about. Have a good night. You can catch these later as episodes. Okay, just looking at the condition of these forces. Okay, these guys are about shattered, so this is, when we were talking earlier, why my manpower is doing so poorly. Instead of being defeated by losing organization, they're being defeated by being just shattering, which is not the best outcome, and which rapidly and massively drains. We can see here, we suffered 35,000 casualties, roughly 3 divisions worth of casualties here. Now the Soviets suffered 100,000 casualties in this battle. They had 600,000 troops. I'm reading that correctly. They had 600,000 troops in this battle here. And I know people, if you said, lost respect for me because I cheated in just 100 manpower, which since I removed it, because all of the feedback I got was, no, you either shouldn't do it, or like one person said, lost respect. Do understand that the Soviet Union has almost effectively, my understanding is, unlimited manpower because of black ice. So you're fighting somebody who is, and it's not unlimited as in, infinite number. It's just there's a bunch of events or decisions or whatever that will keep pumping in manpower if they get lower than whatever. I haven't looked at all the code. So you're fighting someone that you're not going to be able to bleed dry. You have to defeat their units and crush them. It's more of a unit destruction situation than it is a combat kind of thing. So or attritional warfare. And the Soviet Union, although they didn't want to admit it, of course, was basically out of manpower by 1945. They were, they had huge amounts, but they didn't. Oh, we just lost Mariupol. Well, there goes the supply in that region. They could, reinforcements were becoming a no. Okay, well. Let's send you down here. Divisions we bought, or we got in here. Okay, this is here. This is one of the Erzatz divisions. Let's move you down to here. Keep you in the west against other possible invasions. Where I should have one. Maybe it's. No, that's. Thought I should have one more armored unit here. Did it shatter? Is it hiding under a different name? Huh. Seven. There's the 101 Airzats Brigade. That's the one I found. There should be like another one around here. About, no, that's a mobile unit. I don't know. I don't know. Stalin cut down the pregnancy period from 9 months to 2 months. Yes, that's the reason. Stalin's orders. Maybe I just sent it up to here and didn't follow movement. I don't know. Don't know. I do lose units periodically. Is it not? Listen, where are they? Kind of thing. Okay, these are mostly now headquarters. Okay, you get on board ship. We're gonna keep. Okay, you don't have anything attached to you. You get on board ship. We're gonna move you to here. Transport. Oh, good. Okay. We won the Battle of Delhi's here. Okay. Pinching out the American attacks. We've won down here. Very good. This is sort of the key spot here. Okay, well, this is just a. Okay, though, no, okay, they don't have. Okay, you guys come down here. Okay, and the force that I moved to here, these guys, on board ship, and let's try an invasion down here. Well, got rid of one of the submarines in the Sea of Azov. If we can get this here, we can maybe create another small pocket with some of these good forces up here. We have, well, maybe not terribly great, but some forces to sit in these hills and mountains. Okay, we're losing. They're pushing into there. Hangar Bay maintenance has advanced there. Here. Okay, we'll let that continue. Hello, Sebastian. How you doing? Yeah, let's do the Dresden. Yeah. Transport. Give permission. New supply network. Germany grants rail construction until that. ICs. Okay. This may help us out incredibly. So we'll until June 43. So basically, what, 7 months? We'll lose 1% IC and 2.5%. 5 manpower. That's almost the thing that's going to hurt the most. But yes, we will do this. And okay, so look at the colors there. Do this, and then let's. I don't know if I can tell the difference. Oh, did it get better? I don't know. I don't know. This Kiev is down here somewhere. This Kiev, yes. Did I get better supply lines? I don't know. I don't know. Oh, and we could fire, which I don't intend to here, is Case Anton here if you wanted to. Basically, it takes over control of Vichy France, but eliminates Vichy France. I would rather have Vichy France as a puppet than try it, because I don't need its resources. Maybe there's a good reason you guys could explain to me. I don't know of one that I should try to take it over directly and fully. Especially now that they are in the Axis. And we can move our forces there. Well, so far our holding behind the river is doing okay. Okay. Oh, it's just going to give us, well, 10% supply throughput. Okay, so this isn't a infrastructure upgrade. It's just more supply throughput. Okay, well, that works. And we've lost the earlier limited stuff, Dresden to Lvov troop train. Okay, so we just expanded our supply throughput, generally speaking. You'll just waste more manpower on policing them. Yes, exactly. And the ICs in the South France isn't worth it. Obviously, yes, I could do with more ICs. I'm not going to suggest, because obviously, I could build all of these units all at once and be building huge amounts more of infrastructure and what. But ICs and we can, especially now that they're a puppet, we can see in here, okay, there's some decent ICs in some of these, but a lot, okay, they're in Lyon, and that, okay, so some decent, but then it obviously would be changed based on occupation laws. So yeah, it would help some, but we definitely don't need the resources, don't need the garrisoning problem. And then again, historically, this is why Vichy's set up. When, and it's ended up being called Vichy. It was originally, they were, no, not La Rochelle. It was, I don't think, no, it was, was it La Rochelle? Or was it down here in Bordeaux? It was either La Rochelle or Bordeaux or wherever it was that they, I think it was Bordeaux is where they had the government at the time. What is it? The Third Republic falls. It's either the second or the third or whatever. Republic falls, it collapses, and the government ministers. This isn't like any proper constitutional change or anything like that. The government has collapsed, and it's not just the particular government collapsed. It, in changing who the political leaders are, this governmental structural form is collapsed, and the government ministers agree to put Pétain as head of the government. Churchill is trying for a pseudo-unification with France. No one, and I'm pretty damn sure Churchill especially, doesn't think that this is going to somehow be a true union of France and Britain and long-term single government, single country. No, it was more like, hey, we'll live or die together. We'll organize ourselves up together. We'll function as a single, wartime political entity kind of union is how I interpret what he is proposing, but that is on deaf ears for sure with the French, probably with some of the British types, upper minister types, but I don't know how well that would have gone over in Britain. And so this is 1940, Paris has fallen. The French don't know what the hell to do. They put Pétain in charge of it. He's obviously sort of the hero of World War I. Back in the mid to late 30s. He's been giving lectures to large, huge crowds in big stadiums, lecturing on the dangers of Germany and the Nazis, and France needs to prepare. Basically, he's ignored. So he is in some ways, and I just want to say this, in some ways sort of seen as, hello, Iraq, I'll get to your comment in a moment, as a Churchill-like figure, as in, danger, danger, look at the dangers of the Nazis over there. We've got to really not, and don't just think that you're, and he was also, and I just heard, read, a description of his speeches. I don't speak French and I haven't read a proper translation, but it wasn't, it was more than, don't just rely upon that Maginot Line type defense. It was, we really need to get prepared. They didn't. So they bring him in. Like they're bringing in different the British government doesn't fall. Okay, you got to understand this. The British government doesn't fall. The king is still the king. The British Parliament is still the British Parliament. It's just who's going to be prime minister, and they could tell that there's going to be no confidence in Chamberlain. He still has a lot of support, but he isn't going to be the right guy to lead. And even Chamberlain knows this, the right guy to lead Britain onward. And since they're the conservative government, see, the conservative, there is no popular, people in the streets, and there's no members of parliament, members of lords, mayors, and town council. There's no popular sentiment that the conservative government is bad or needs to be removed. It's just Chamberlain, who stays a member of parliament and who stays a minister, I believe, without portfolio under Churchill. So Churchill keeps using Chamberlain, not just as a puppet or a figurehead or a mouthpiece. And he's dying of cancer too. I'm not sure exactly when and where all that is found out. But and he continues. He knows, and they actually set up a special little bunker near, so he can go and get some sort of treatments because he's dying of cancer. But he's staying to be a minister and helping out Churchill's government after he leaves. So he's eventually, and this is like in 41 or whatever, he's dying of cancer. So this isn't too much later, and I don't know medically when all this comes out, either for him or publicly. Well, they keep it privately for the general public, but the government ministers know that Chamberlain is dying of cancer. So Chamberlain isn't going to be the one leading Britain. And so they're changing out the prime minister, and it's going to be either Churchill or Halifax, basically, is going to be, Chamberlain is going to recommend to the king, and with the idea of making a war government, a unity government, in that there's even going to be some Labour, definitely some Liberals ministers in it. It's going to be an all parties government. And so the government isn't fallen. Yeah, they're swapping out prime ministers, and they're going to do a reshuffle of the cabinet, obviously, and other things like that. But the British government is not collapsing in 1940. The French government collapses. The whole government structure. So basically, they turn it over to a dictatorship of Pétain. Well, Pétain, however you want to pronounce it, knows that France is militarily defeated. France can continue to fight, but they abandoned Paris because they knew that they weren't going to be able to hold Paris. They didn't want it destroyed. There's still lots of French divisions that are in, materially at least, meaning they have rifles, artillery, bullets, shells, whatever, able to fight, but there's not enough of them, and they're not in the right spot. Now, morale and or how they were able to, maneuver them into a coherent defensive line, he knows basically France is defeated. And this is sort of the elected politicians realizing and saying publicly, we failed. We fucked up, people. We're putting this guy in charge. If anybody can do anything, or the best deal we can get is going to be Pétain. And so let's put the military in charge of the nation now that we're at war. And it's meant to be just, for the time of troubles. And so they start seeking a peace settlement. Well, this is sort of what, is, we see here, this map is what is proposed by the Germans. This bit of territory that was owned by Germany in 1914, beginning of World War I, goes back to Germany. We will occupy the rest, or this other parts of France, partially because we've occupied a lot of this. Partially this part here we had yet to occupy. Germany was nowhere near this, but Germany wants to control the coast to keep the idea of a British counter invasion from sort of happening. So Germany's going to occupy this for basically, I think it's unspecified, but sort of understood until things are settled one way or another with Britain. And is definitely understood, whether that's what would have happened or not, that eventually, yes, the French government is going to get back full control of Paris. And maybe not, there still may be the idea of a, German occupation zone, sort of like the French occupation zone, the Ruhr, after World War I. There very well may be long-term, 10, 20, 30, 40 years of occupied, some of this area is heavily industrialized, occupied zones that, yes, still going to be French territory. Yes, Frenchmen are still going to live there, but it's going to be administered by Germany. Those are sort of my understanding of what is sort of understood. And as, was stated, it's going to take a lot of manpower for Germany to fully occupy it. And if Germany's still at war with France, well, France can fall back to, here, and they're going to have to be a lot of fighting, and they're going to take up a lot of troops, and yeah, we're just going to, do a negotiated settlement. So I don't blame Pétain for setting up the Vichy government. I said it's a bad idea. What, especially looking at it in the conditions under which they presumed it was going to be under. But of course, Britain fights on and other things. So, yeah, not so good. But we're going to... If this is sort of what's going to happen, if this is what's is going to happen, meaning Germany is able to defeat the landings and push them out, I think, yes, a version of the Vichy government would have fought on, would have been continued, because there was a version of the Vichy government even after full German occupation under Laval. Pétain is at best then later on a figurehead, if not actually removed at some point. So, and he is removed at some point from any effective functional, basically put under house arrest. Because if you can defeat the Americans' counter invasion, what's your choices? Continue to collaborate with the Germans and hope that whatever post-war situation will be, that you get back the bulk of your country. Option one. And this is presuming that, American and British invasions are defeated, and American and Britain are not going to be able to defeat Germany. So one, Germany is successful and you're just trying to get the best deal out from under a successful Germany. Or two, this is the victors, the Soviet Union. And if the Soviet Union is marching into Paris, that may be worse than the Germans to a lot of the French elites. I mean, of course, there's the leftist French elites that would cheer it. But a lot of the middle of the road and right-wing French, and not just right-wing, but middle of the road and right-wing French, will see a Soviet Union as worse than the Germans. Most Frenchmen despised particularly the Frenchmen that went and fought for the SS. Most Frenchmen despised that. Not because they fought for the SS or no, let me restate that. Not that part. Not because they went and fought against the Soviet Union. No. What they despised them for was collaborating fully with the their occupiers. They're the people that defeated them, the Germans. If you're a French policeman in Paris and you're collaborating, most of those people are thought of as all right post the war, because mostly what they were doing was general law enforcement and mostly looking away from trying to hunt down any saboteurs or British spies or whatever. Because I forget, there was one serial killer who was a doctor, a French guy, killing all kinds of people during it, and some horrific stuff going on that is eventually found out. And there's a lot of need for French law enforcement and other French people to occupy just to keep basic civil order going on. And so long as they're seen as not overly helping the Germans hunt down, people who blew up an arms factory or blew up a railway bridge, and sort of like, they're sort of collaborating, they're arresting Frenchmen, it's not great, but we still sort of need them. So they're not out and out collaborators like the guys that went and fought for the Germans, mostly on the East Front. But if it hadn't been, particularly for German occupation, but even if they hadn't gone to war, had it been sort of like Sweden, I truly do believe this, many more Frenchmen would have volunteered purely for a crusade against Bolshevism. Okay, had it been the situation that let's change the start of the war. Whatever happened in Czechoslovakia happens, but the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact doesn't get signed. Hitler anyways goes to war with Poland, but France and Britain had not guaranteed Poland's independence, and a war breaks out just between Germany and the Soviet Union. So there's no war fought against the Frenchmen, but it's a crusade against Bolshevism. I think there would have been many Frenchmen volunteering to fight the Soviets. Not saying like half of French adults or anything like this, but a few divisions worth, which is still a very small fraction of the French male population. But I think there would have been a few divisions worth of volunteers if it was not seen as also collaborating against the enemies of France. Just because the Soviets are enemy, a lot of these people saw them as the Soviets as enemies of France, doesn't mean that you want to help the other enemies of France. The enemy of your enemy isn't necessarily your friend, kind of thing. And what is Rex saying? Maybe try to switch to infantry law tech. I mean, you can reduce the amount of people in infantry. Yes, I know you can. I'm going to avoid doing that, but just because of the needs of the manpower, I don't want to do that, but it may not be a bad idea. In my opinion, and I'm not going to say I fully know all the details of everything, in my opinion, it is really only useful to do that if you don't have enough division to spread along your front line. But right now, we have enough divisions. It's just we don't have enough manpower. So we could disband some of our divisions and still have plenty of divisions. So you really only, in my opinion, only really want to do that is if you look around and go, I need more divisions somewhere. Now I've got plenty of divisions. I need more supplies, more manpower for those divisions. Or I should just remove some divisions. So that's really more. Well, okay. Well, the Allies failed when they decided to do a phony. Absolutely, there's the whole phony war stuff. That's very true. That's a whole. There's a lot of topics on that idea, but Brits are the worst case. They didn't do anything until Norway. Well, Marcel kept the body. Oh, that's right. Okay, I forget his name. Yeah, kept the bodies in his Paris basement. Yes, and also I think disposed of some, and a lot of people were supposedly, he claimed that he was helping smuggle them out, which is why they disappeared or something. Yes, some weird stuff going on. France collapsed in 39. Short story of betrayal of England and France colonial policy towards Eastern. I don't know. More 40, but yeah. The enemy of my enemy is my second enemy degree. Yes, Niagara. Yes, that kind of thing. The Soviets are not your friends. Even though you may want to supply them with weapons to help defeat, now the whole idea from Britain and America's perspective is they wanted to charge into Berlin, but they didn't want the Soviets to collapse either. Now, obviously, Germany or the Soviets get to Berlin before the Western Allies do. Stupid Germans. They keep fighting in the West, but when they should have just allowed that front to collapse. And by the time not so much D-Day, which is 1944, but by the time the Battle of the Bulge ends, the Ardennes offensive is over, the German various levels of command, divisional commanders, corps commanders, army commanders in the West should just be like, yeah, throw in the towel, let the Allies plunge through Western Germany and try to meet up with the Soviets somewhere here or something. They should have been looking at that instead of fighting in. But most industries were in the West. Yes, but just let it collapse, and just let the Americans and the British just occupy everything. And see, that's basically because the Elbe River is where they meet up. But you can look at drawing of the borders, is a lot of it has to do with where the Soviets occupied. So they used Poland as a shield, and they 1 more year to prepare for war. The enemy, my enemy, dies second. Yeah, so it's that type of thing. Okay, we lost Panzer Ableting. Okay, good. What unit did we just lose? Okay. Martinik's division the last time they died was in counterattacking there. We'll send you up to here because we got swamps maybe to fight in. We'll refind a new. Need to go east to command your corps. Name you. This thing that was up in Finland. Well, you can head up to Saturn. Okay, well, this attack does not seem to be doing overly well. I think we're going to stop it. So we've lost. We're just going to hold out here. Mostly holding out here to keep them from pushing too far to here. Round. We're holding here. Okay-ish. They'll be back with some more reinforcements. So you're not attached to anybody? Well, let's attach you. I think your HQ got killed. And I think your HQ got killed. Yep, Finland ain't doing well. We just aren't doing well. Yes, okay. Yes, we won. They tried to counterattack, thinking that maybe I stopped attacking because I was in too bad of a shape. I stopped attacking, not to be... Okay. We've won that battle. Now kill them. Yep, they get to kill those military police guys. Oh, so they're now ashore here. They've been fighting ashore for some time. Okay, so they've gotten ashore. They have... Okay, some decent divisions that were put offshore. I really like what they've done. This is so much better than before. It used to be with some of these invasions, it was coded so that they would stop, or they would switch the territorial control from Germany to America, or whatever, you know, I'm thinking some, you know, up here, but from whatever nation to like America, and place the units on top. So, okay, everybody, here's a major pronouncement. This is great, and this is one of the. This is why I played this long series. Obviously, I could have just played it on my own, but partially I wanted to fill the time here, making episodes for you. I wanted to see how their new scripted invasions worked. It used to be counterproductive to build fortifications along the coast, because what would happen is they would script an invasion, and that invasion would change ownership of the province from whatever current to, like, say, the Americans, and place American units there. So there would be German units defending here. This is for the D-Day invasion, obviously. There would be German units here that theoretically should be invading, but they were actually, the German units are now attacking because the American forces are here, and it's American-controlled territory, and any fortification would help the defenders, and the defenders are now Americans. So if you built the Atlantic Wall, you're actively building it against yourself. That's what it was. Now, if you just built coastal defense, well, that doesn't help against the land attack. But that is, neither here nor there, because you're defending. Now, and I presume the others are going to work this way, is because what we watched here was they placed these units here, and we just saw the top, the HQ. They placed the HQ here, along with these two other divisions. Here, the 1st Armored Division and Z Force. They placed them here. They placed them out here, and with some sort of instructions, and I'd have to go in and look at the code, and I did not go and look at the code. Tinky, they used to work against you. So now they place the units at sea with the coding that they're actively attacking. This, and then so here I think they immediately popped in because they did give they made this least national territory, but I don't think there were any Vichy forces here. And over here you saw them here and here. I don't think there were any Vichy forces here. This does become national territory still, but I don't know whether this national territory was actually a change of control, because you can change national territory and you can change control, because this is currently U.S. national territory with provincial claims, or with claims by France and Vichy France, and under the control of Vichy France, but it's still considered American national territory right now, is the definition of this province here. This is a Vichy French province that's currently under U.S. control, where this is, again, a U.S. province under Vichy control. So now, and I'm presuming it's working, and I don't see why they wouldn't have made the other invasions work like this. Now, if you were to build the Atlantic Wall, it's now an actual useful defensive. So, and so I stopped building Atlantic walls, or just building minimal Atlantic wall, because they would still work against the idea of an AI invasion. But I did not want heavy ones that made me fight back in. So, but now it is useful to build this. So this is a great improvement to scripted invasions. I like scripted invasions, partially because we talked earlier about how the AI was taught with their Finest Hour DLC to only invade unless it was somehow it thought it was overwhelmingly done. To go back to that subject, they used to do a lot of suicide invasions, so you could just leave a port. If the AI detected a port that was empty, it would invade. Even if it saw a bunch of panzer divisions around it here, you could just invade, destroy the forces, rinse and repeat, and bleed whatever nation that was doing it dry. Now that would actually be a good thing, or all these suicide invasions, if they'd just done one little thing, one simple little thing in their code. And again, we don't have we have access to some of the AI, and which I forget which I'm going into doing the production AI, and I'm changing some of that, and they've helped me out with giving me coding examples, and so I can, if you give me examples of things and that I can copy and paste and then change a little bit, I can work with. So we have like production AI, we modders can get in and do it, but the combat AI, we don't have access to it. We can't modify it. We can't look at it. But if they just done one little thing about, and they can also code these invasions nation by nation, not just, they can do it generically or they can code it nation by nation. But for like British invasions, if they kept the old For the Motherland code and just changed one little parameter, and that would have been, is Germany at war with Soviet Union? That's all they had to have, was a check for that. Because then, if you dump in a huge number of, you dump in 5 divisions or something here, because you see nothing defending it, Germany is not going to have 15 divisions or whatever it would need just to crush them, because it needs to have those divisions on the Eastern Front. Or, well then, hey, it's 15 and it can't, and it takes a while for them to be, so it can't be 15 divisions spread all out along here, because 5 divisions would crash into, I'm talking good divisions, not just weak garrison forces, but you'd have to have good divisions spread out all along here, and if they were able to crash in, it's going to take them a while. It may be like a de-upgrade, we may be defeating it eventually, but it's going to take a huge amount of units away from possible use on the Eastern Front. So whether the invasion is successful or not, you could, and the old, and this gave me the habit of sticking 1 unit in every single port, because if you did that, they would try to invade the port. Normally it would, be enough of a defense, even a minimal unit like this from 2 or 3 divisions, and it would just go home, and then it would try again, and it would go home. So I could have weak defenses guarding the ports, keeping the AI from doing anything too serious. Okay. Well, that would be fine, but if they got it sort of serious and then pushed in, hey, that's just taking it off from the east, and so it messes with it. So it would be doing a 2-front war, even if the invasion wasn't so perfect, So, but we don't have access to that. And what is right? I always wanted to recreate a scenario of World War I with Russia as an Eastern Front Poland. Yes, Poland should join the Axis. Neutrality is out of the question, and 44 switch sides to Germany. Okay. Now France is the biggest collaborator from all the Western countries. Is big resistance. Yes. The idea that there are no countries between East and West makes me laugh. I'm not sure about how you're looking at that, but okay. Paradox in AI isn't on the best of terms. Yes. Like enemies. Yeah. Well, the AI Paradox seems to be able to do big doomstack ideas. If you look at, and I haven't played the more recent EUs, but a little bit, but if you create big doomstacks, they're able to move those around and have battles and work that relatively effectively. But they're not able to do this kind of stuff well. not well. So yeah. So, but this is really good news. The Black Ice people have done a really good job here. Okay, we've crushed that, and what division just got shattered? Oh, up in Finland, one of our forces up. Well, was it up here? Yeah, no, I think it just headquartered out of there. I think, I don't know. Okay, well, move it to set and we'll send it back up. Maybe we'll keep them alive. We should be having these guys coming around here, back here. They had delivered some reinforcements just to hold up here, keep the Soviets something of an occupied on that front instead of letting them concentrate everything against me. Good. These motor torpedo boats are doing all right. Well, they haven't. Those guys are really slow. So let's move these guys back here so maybe we can hold this port, which is sort of important. Anything? No, just an HQ. Okay. There's just an HQ. They can go back to there because they're not a decent fighting unit. Let's put those guys up here. And we can hold Mariupol. 6-0. That one of these guys just crashed out. Okay. Well, and we can see this here. Let's. They're currently reinforcing. Yeah, we're not gonna win this. They've got too much here. Okay, I just wondered how well. Okay, and naval forces nowhere. They go back to there. Okay, well, that potential naval invasion is not looking good. The story is you never trust an Anglo as he cares only about himself. I would disagree with that, but okay, how do I put this? Britain is incapable of defending Poland. We're talking World War II, with Germany sitting in there. So no matter what Britain says it wants to do, it knows it's incapable of doing it. France, on the other hand, well, it's also incapable of defending Poland. But France is at least capable of launching a serious offensive against Germany. Okay? France is unwilling to go on the offensive against Germany. Yeah, I know about the Saarland offensive that sort of scared the French and they went home after they attacked and the Germans retreated. Oh shit, something must be wrong. They retreated. We got to go home. It's really the French, because the British could help the French attack Germany, but the British can't attack Germany because there's nowhere for them to attack Germany. Okay, what are they going to invade up here? No, they can't. They cannot effectively attack Germany. Okay, and if you go, well, they should attack through France. France wouldn't let them. France panics and says, what the hell, Britain? When they find out that Britain dropped some bombs on Germany early in the war. And I think they were mostly just bombing like the some of the forests, some of the, the forests and around this area, and some of the other stuff. They're going, no, don't bomb. You're going to get those Germans mad. Don't do that. No. Propaganda leaflets, yes. Dropping bombs, no. They were, this is even under, Chamberlain before the Battle of France. France was really upset that Britain attacked Germany with bombs because they're afraid of retaliation. If Britain wanted to attack, along the Maginot Line, but attacking into there, France would have stopped them. Before the big invasion, France would have stopped them. France was, you want to help? You want you and us go in and help defend Belgium once Germany attacks? Sure, great, no problem. Once Germany attacks Belgium, we're going to go defend Belgium. Notice the key word: go defend Belgium, not attack Germany. France does not want to attack Germany. So I put the blame entirely in France's court, not in Britain's court. So you can have your opinions, but I'm just disagreeing with that. In Hoitou, you had militia with artillery on all the beaches as Italy and Spain. Garrisons got killed, then pushed. Right. It was enough to react to the landings, and it didn't need much manpower. Absolutely. And you could use militia-type forces. I just sort of use garrisons with rocket artillery, fairly cheap. AA gives some hard attack and some penetration, and as well as anti-aircraft. So it's just sort of a cheap way of doing something, and meant to be delayed enough. The whole idea is to delay it enough. And I've sent my I had 6 panzer divisions. We can see 3 of them here, and no, there's the other. Where's the other one? And the other one's here. Where? Okay, no orders. Where? Oh, you're here. Okay, here. This is the other one. I had 6 panzer divisions throughout the whole time sitting here that are the forces made up of former French units, plus a few other stuff. As a 6 divisions mobile reaction force, which I had moved down here to deal with this. So that should be enough to deal with most invasions. It was just I moved it out to deal with down here. Britain sends the fleet into the Baltic Sea and makes landfall in Denmark. Yeah. Yeah, and see, that's especially in the age of air power, that is not going to happen. Battle of Mariupol. Let's see, can we win any of this stuff? Maybe. In the 19th century, that might actually work. Sending the British fleet and successfully landing troops and helping something like Poland, but not in the middle of the 20th century with air power. Britain just can't do that. Even if you have, aircraft carriers and whatnot, it's just not going to happen. But look, I'm guessing maybe Nazca is Polish, but don't know for sure. Poland is doomed if it has powerful neighbors that want it. Okay. I don't know if they could ever build up and become an industrial giant. That would be great and fine, and I would love it if they did. But because we can look back to the partitioning of Poland between Russia, Prussia, and Austria. Yeah, they'll just slice it up if it's big neighbors. If there's big neighbors, because obviously you could break up Russia. You could have Ukraine. You could have actually have a different country, a Belarus, and have the Baltic states, and have Hungary, and you have medium-sized countries around it. And if they don't all together agree and want to destroy Poland, Poland could defend itself. But if it's looking at there's a German Empire or a Prussian Empire and a Russian Empire and a Austrian Empire, Poland's just doomed. It just doesn't have the defensive geography. The story. In fact, Polish throughout that they can defend itself and no one can take on Russia just because great works of disinformation. Yeah. The only one that could save Poland from the Soviets is Germany and vice versa. Sadly, the split it, and that's, yes. Well, Hitler wants to erase Poland. And the Soviet Union, short-sightedly, in my opinion, wants to grab Poland, or as much of Poland as it can, or had it sort of like, yeah, they're anti-Bolsheviks, anti-communists, and we fought them in 1920, but they're a good buffer state. Had they just thought in those terms, they would have done a lot better. Never as weak as you think they are, and never as strong as you think they are. Sun Tzu. Yes, Rack, you're right about Sun Tzu. The RN has done the Copenhagen move too many times. People expect it these days. Yes, but it worked under Nelson because, again, it was sea power, and land power could only be projected as far as a cannon shot, and then half of that cannon shot distance, it becomes basically ineffective anyways against a big fleet. Fortification shooting off a few shells as some ships sail past, way out there. That's nothing. It's only they got to get in close before they really be effective. There are many studies by historians who refuted the myth of the powerlessness of the Allies in the Second World War. Okay, I don't know exactly what you're referring to there, Sebastian, and both studies in powerlessness refute it. But you have to remember, warfare is a political act. Warfare is political. Okay, at its core, warfare is political. I mentioned before, just a moment ago, that France was worried about being bombed because Britain was bombing some German targets, not just dropping leaflets like they had been before, but actively doing some early strategic bombing against some targets in the Ruhr. I think forests were on some of it because they were trying to minimize civilian casualties, but they were starting to do some bombing. Now, why were the French so worried about this? Well, the French were worried about the overwhelming power of the Luftwaffe. The Luftwaffe was so huge, so powerful, and I don't mean powerful as in that they had better fighters or better bombers, just it was so big. They were worried about this overwhelming power of the Luftwaffe and the number of aircraft. You see, the French didn't know that their air force was about equal in size and probably about as modern as the Luftwaffe. Maybe the Luftwaffe is a little more modern. But France alone was equal to or slightly bigger, France's Air Force, than the Luftwaffe. That doesn't count the RAF or doesn't count the Belgian Air Force or what this was after the fall of Poland. But the Luftwaffe is actually, in a material strength, weaker than the French. But perception, and politics is perception, okay? You perceive, what your perception, it's not the reality, it's the perception. Politics is perception. It was earlier mentioned, you pass laws that the government either will not or cannot enforce is not, they're not effective. Well, they're actually counter-effective, because if you pass a law and it either will not or cannot enforce, it creates the perception of governments being ineffective, being bad, and that's actually counterproductive. In governments, you don't do that. So perception. You don't outlaw something like alcohol and then show that you can't control it, and so that there's more people drinking alcohol after you outlaw it than there are, and there's more alcohol being drunk after you've outlawed it than it was before, and then that's why you get rid of prohibition, right? Okay, so perception was that the Luftwaffe was bigger, and this is at the high private levels in French's military and political thinking, not maybe what was thought on the public streets. But France's Air Force was equally as big, if not bigger, than the Luftwaffe. Now, which is more powerful? Well, the Luftwaffe, although smaller, was more powerful because it had the command and control loops, forward observers, rapid reaction to enemy invasion, sort of like the RAF, at least over Britain, not over everywhere in the world, but over Britain was more powerful than the attacking Luftwaffe, even when the Luftwaffe had more fighters and bombers, because use of radar, they were able to bring all of their fighters in against an incoming enemy, where the Germany thought, well, it's just the fighters in this area were scrambling and come. No, it's all the fighters. So wherever they went, Britain was able to get basically all of the available fighters in on that battle and vector it in. So even though the Luftwaffe was even in the operation zones, and we're not talking about North Africa at the time or later on once the Soviet Union's going, we're talking about just the Luftwaffe in this area at the time had more aircraft, had more bombers, had more fighters than the RAF, at least at points during the time, even more ready to operate. But in this theater of operation, Britain was more powerful because it was able to use its resources more effectively. So yes, the Luftwaffe was more powerful than the French Air Force because it was better able to use the power that it had, but pure industrial capability, pure military capability in the sense of how many fighters they had and how many machine gun bullets they had and all that stuff, France was more powerful than the Luftwaffe alone, but it had other allies. But so whatever you want to say about studies and the powerfulness or lessness or whatever of the Western allies prior to the Americans entering the war, a lot of it comes down to perception, because it's political. It's a political act. And this, so anybody who's looking, and it's fine for people to do studies about, production levels and how many bullets a division had and how much stores of gasoline, how much stores of aviation gasoline, to how much you can operate, how much could the Italian Navy operate for its stores of oil, because you burn oil for the big ships, not gasoline, its operational level. But in my opinion, the real problem with the Italian Navy wasn't that it didn't have enough fuel. It was a political decision that it doesn't want the fleet sunk. So only engage the British Navy when you are sure that you are in overwhelming superiority. So if you can put 3 battleships to their 1 battleship and sink their 1 battleship, go. But if it looks like, oops, there could be even numbers, no, stay in port. No, don't go out. Don't risk it. Fly a few aircraft, see if you can sink a few of them. Then we'll go out if you sink a few battleships. But otherwise, no. So, yes, part of, Italy's problem with warfare in the Mediterranean is they did less patrolling even of the, destroyers and whatnot, because they were worried about using up their limited oil resources. So, yes, material resources do come into Italians' military thinking in a practical sense, but much more is it's that political sense of not willing to risk a bad outcome of a battle, because whether it's political or popular perception, the Italian fleet just got sunk, gets headlines over Italy. What are the Italian people going to do? 2, well, if that's sunk, well, then we're vulnerable to invasion, and it's all of those kind of things come into it. And you have to take that into understanding of the people's viewpoint of the time. So it doesn't matter what if there's the wrong thinking going on. Sorry, chat's going a little fast. Let's see. Strong long-term war. World War II was a war of systems. A war of systems were far better, the Germans, in long-term war, but against Poland. Well, okay. Gamer, have you seen episode about food shortages in the Third Reich? Yes, I have seen some of them. I disagree with some of his conclusions. Maybe we'll get to that in a moment. I just want to quickly get through this chat here. They're also shocked by armored blitzkrieg. Yes. They did not think they would bleed out in Poland, but they did not think about the Ruthians. Just don't look into Germany's back line. It's donkeys and horse carts, right, for supply. The French kept most of their modern fighters in hangars while the Luftwaffe had theirs in the air. And the French were slow to supply squadrons with the fighters in storage. Yes, there is, whether they were literally in storage or simply at the hangars waiting for the word to scramble, to get up and going, meaning a fully equipped fighter squadron. The French, and it's both things I believe are true, Beam Slam, because they were receiving some more modern fighters. The Vichy France had a bunch of modern fighters in storage that they'd gotten from America at the time of surrender that they hadn't even assembled yet. And that they did assemble, and they used some of them and some of the bombers they got to bomb Gibraltar. The French bombed Gibraltar after the British sunk the French fleet. So the French bombed the British eventually in Gibraltar. They had more of that. So it's partially logistic, but it's also partially command and control. Now, I divide warfare into two types, getting back, I think, to Rax, one of the long-term war versus short-term war. I believe warfare can be generally put into two basic categories: a war of attrition and war of maneuver and decision. Okay, those are the two categories: attrition and maneuver and decision. Look at the American Civil War. If it's a war of attrition, and yes, politics and all that come into play, but if it's a war of attrition, the North always will win against the Confederacy. They have more manpower, they have more industry, they have more food production, all kinds of stuff. The South has enough food production, sort of. Well, a lot of their agriculture is designed for commerce production, to cotton and tobacco to make money that bought food from the North to feed itself. They can switch over to it, but they're not set up for it. But if it's a war of maneuver and decision, like whether you want to call it the First Bull Run or Battle of Manassas, same battle, two different names, the Union Army was beat. Had the Confederates, and there were units that they could have, because I've war-gamed that battle out a few times. There were some units that were in good enough shape to push towards Washington, D.C., but they thought there was going to be some resistance, so they didn't, because there wasn't enough of the units ready enough to march on Washington, D.C., because the Confederate Army, although won, and for a while was looking like they were going to lose that battle. This is the first real big maneuver battle of the Civil War. That happens outside of Washington, D.C., basically. Had they just been able to push just a few battalions into Washington, D.C., I think D.C. would have surrendered. I think the much of the political establishment would have fled the city and would have run away. Well, if the South then could, a few days later, once they got their army reorganized from that battle, with the following, be able to push up into Maryland and threaten northern states, I think you might have had a Confederate victory. And there are a few other points that can be debated that could have gone different ways, including the Gettysburg Campaign and a few others. Had you kept that a war of maneuver and decision, the Confederacy has a chance. I'm not saying it's going to win, but it has a chance. So if you're going to fight a war of attrition between Britain and France and Germany, Britain and France versus Germany, Britain and France is probably going to win a war of attrition. But the Germans were able to turn it into a war of maneuver and decision. On the Eastern Front, Germany tries for a war of maneuver and decision. Unfortunately, because of the scale of the battlefield, Germany just exhausts itself in that the trucks that are leaving from East Prussia, by the time they're out here somewhere, they're breaking down. The tanks are breaking down. They need maintenance. They need, even without, we're not even talking combat. They're just literally breaking down from driving too far over rough terrain. The soldiers are exhausted. The ammunition is exhausted. The supply lines, we know, can't keep even the amount of ammunition that they are making going. So they exhaust themselves. And because the scale of Russia is so big, the maneuver and decision element is too small. It can't do it in one campaign. And because of Hitler, and he has reasons, good reasons, not necessarily good enough reasons, but good reasons, that he wants to hold as much territory as he conquers. So he turns it into a war of attrition, where some of the generals wanted to keep it a war of maneuver, go, okay, yeah, we've lost. Well, let's retreat back here. Let them fill back in, and then we'll do big super pockets. So we'll keep destroying their, we'll destroy 5 of their tanks for every one of ours, but we'll also destroy those units by doing pockets and getting large groups of men and not letting them just battle them on the front, but destroy their functional ability to fight these units and keep it a war of maneuver and decision that's still somewhat attritional in that it's not just in one campaign. But Hitler refuses the idea for various reasons, because again, warfare is political. He doesn't want to be seen to be, oh, well, we've been here in Rostov-on-the-Don. Okay, now what? We're going back to the, maybe not exactly the Romanian border, but we're going all the way back here voluntarily. Oh, no, that's a defeat. That's politically, that's too difficult to do. So it's partially political. It's also Hitler is worried about resources that he didn't have, Germany didn't have access to, that they captured, and he doesn't want to give them up. Again, there are good reasons for what Hitler wants to do, but they're not necessarily good enough reasons. Meaning it isn't, what he wasn't deciding to do is entirely stupid. It just isn't, in my opinion, the best idea of what was available, of ideas presented at the time. Where I'm not just like me looking back at it saying, well, this is what they should have done. No, we should have just listened to these other generals at the time that were saying that this should have been done. And that might have been a loss too. I don't know. But it would have kept that idea of Germany able to concentrate its divisions, use its command and control links to fight a war in such a way that the enemies, that really Britain gets good enough to match Germany, and America gets good enough to actually overwhelm Germany in its flexibility of fighting and its command and control and its ability to bring air power, ground power, artillery, all of that on the enemy. It outdoes Germany, but that takes time. But even though it outdoes Germany, if Germany isn't bogged down in the east, I don't know that America can win. Let's see what everybody's saying here. I know I've been on a roll. French kept most of their, why is it so disturbing to me that there are no friends between the West that treat Poland and other Central European countries as natives and Russia's as rebel provinces? Okay, well, you're starting to get into legacies of the Cold War, of lack of knowledge, a lot of stuff. There's I've learned, I thought Romania was an Eastern European country. And in ways it is. I'm not going to say, and obviously it's been under the Iron Curtain, but in ways it's a Western European country because they speak Latin. Now their Latin is super screwy. It's called Romanian, and they don't know freaking how to spell Latin. And Latin is also spoken in Italy and France and Spain. Meaning I'm not talking classical Latin. I'm talking a truly Latin-based language. English has lots of Latin elements in it, but it isn't a true Romantic language. It's a heavily Romantic influence language. And so Romania's culture is sort of that. It isn't, Ukrainian. It isn't Magyar. It isn't, Bulgar or whatever. It's sort of weird Eastern Roman Empire that now it's been shaped and whatnot by a lot of Eastern influences. But so if you sort of try to read Romanian as if it were Latin and just with funky spellings, you sort of make sense. So yeah, it's a lot of things, and it's a language getting to Cyrillic in some cases. It's religious in that yes, I know Poland is Catholic, but it's Eastern Europe if you're talking, because you have various Eastern Orthodoxy type Orthodox religions, and there's a lot of stuff out there that really people aren't, and you're typing faster than I can read all these things. Sorry, I'll get to some of them. And then, of course, you had approximately 50 years of Cold War, and I grew up in the latter part of the Cold War being old enough to be aware in the 70s, born in the 60s. Some people will say 1860s or 1760s or something, but really just the 1960s. And so growing up with all of the Eastern Bloc Cold War, we were cut off from information on all of that. We just don't have information on that. Romanian Orthodoxy, yeah, I know, and it's there's all kinds of various things. So the Cold War really sort of does we just don't have information on Poland, because Germany was trying to erase Poland, and once the Soviets took it over, they're trying to control it in Soviet propaganda. So if you look at stuff in Third Reich events, I cover some of Germany's confiscations of books, destructions of various cult in the East and the West, not Germany's doing this stuff. And they're just really what was happening in Poland, we just don't know. We in the West just don't know. Not that the information isn't out there, but we're just didn't have access to it because it was behind the Iron Curtain, and the Soviets weren't letting people in because they may be, CIA spies. So, there were a few people getting in, but not many. And if you went to the Eastern Europe, you weren't going to work for the U.S. government in a sensitive place because maybe you're a Soviet spy, So yeah, there was a lot of that stuff, and that is still coloring our ideas. Hello, Lawless. How you doing? Let's see. I want to save this one more time here just in case. Let's see what some of the earlier things. Got to scroll up here. In case of the American Civil War, there's any case of missed opportunities. Yes, CSA never went on a proper offensive until Gettysburg. Yeah, there's various things with and I'm not going to get into the details because this isn't today's topic, but yeah, but it's just the idea that if it's attritional, the North is always going to win. The South is a great fighting nation, set up, organized. Lee sets up their military, and then it has great commanders, so it's able to make the Union pay a lot to conquer it, but it's always going to lose if it's attritional. But if it's maneuver and decision, the South has a chance, and there's a few opportunities, if you will, that could have made it so. Agree. The main reason why I don't believe about the nice story that Hitler possessed innocent Germans, they want to sell it now. Germany works about concepts of, well, Germany post-World War I is a messed up place for various reasons. Can't fight a war without fuel and resources against an opponent that's more mobile than you. Yeah, but for a while, Germany had enough oil. For a while. Lots of Russians were more motorized than the Germans, and they kept... Yeah, Germans didn't have as much motorization as we think. But the idea is that they had the flexibility for their motorized forces if they were to use it, but they end up in this second half or so just using their motorized forces as fire brigades to stop Soviet penetrations, as opposed to especially post Stalingrad, as being able to go on good offensives. And that's not saying they should have been able to, but they weren't willing to come back. Romanians themselves are Rome's last state. They even have their own Orthodox Church, but Romania and Eastern Europe, yeah. Call themselves Balkans. Okay, I'm just trying to catch up with the chat. True, I went to Romania when I was 10 years old. The family in Transylvania, German, and I remember the dogs and controls. It was a lot of security. Thank goodness the Cold War ended somewhat. Yes, it has ended somewhat. In many cases. It's okay, gamer. We know that technically World War II started in 1941, all things considered. It became a proper World War after that infamous day. I mean, the USA. Yes. Yes. Well, yeah, that's when it truly becomes a world war. Is bringing America and Japan into a unified war. Because the Japanese war prior to 41, yeah, they had occupied basically peacefully French Indochina, but that was really just a Sino-Japanese war, or Chinese-Japanese war. Basically separate from anything else going on. Basically, and obviously it starts earlier, whether you want to start it with the invasion of Manchukuo or the later Marco Polo Bridge incident, where you want to define that starting out, and you can define it in multiple ways, but definitely going full on by the Marco Polo Bridge incident. That's an ongoing war that is separate from from the European war until Japan declares war, not only on America, but on America and on Britain and, the Netherlands, Australia, and other places functionally. That is when it turns into a world war. Prior to that, it's a Europe war, a sort of two wars before that. You have the Allies versus Germany, and then Germany versus the Soviet Union. Yeah, I know about Lend-Lease and some stupidly limited operations. But there was, I believe, a proposal. I don't know if you quite want to go to a plan, but a proposal to bring in some RAF elements into the Balkans, or not the Balkans, the Caucasus down here. And Stalin says no. This was either before America was in the war or after America was in the war, but before America was active, really able to engage in the war. But he doesn't want the British. He doesn't even want the British influence in down here. So they're really Hearts of Iron 3 and 4 really sort of gets it right, and especially 3 does, in which it's a three-sided war. You could almost go to 4 with Japan, but it's really the Western Allies, Germany, and factions. Western Allies factions, Germany, or the Axis faction, and the Soviets. And yes, the Allies and the Soviets often cooperate, do Lend-Lease, do all that, blah, 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 but they're different factions that have a common enemy, but are not really friends. Or is it? Okay. Yeah, so that's it. Okay, well, I think we're going to end the episode here. I want to thank you all for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. Really do appreciate all of that. So we're going to continue this. We have done fairly well down here. We're going to fight this down. Still being pushed back here more and more and more. But we'll see how that goes. Stay tuned for next time. See ya, everyone. And guys, I also think I need to give my voice a bit of a break. I do appreciate everybody. Tinky, Rack, Nazca, Lawless, I know you just showed up. Arno, if you're still out there. Everybody else, Beamslam, whoever's still there. Thank you so much. I'll be back tomorrow with War Thunder, driving tanks, all that good stuff. So if you want to join us, it's a free-to-play game. You will play some low level if you want to play it, and then be back more Hearts of Iron. Hey Niagara, you're still here, good. Hopefully you can show up tomorrow. I don't know where you are, you have that, and of course be back next week with more Hearts of Iron and such. Thank you, everyone. Have a very good day, evening, morning.